Fallout 4 doesn't exactly overload you with deep, game-altering dialogue choices, but what if we hack those options down even further by becoming a no-man, the ultimate mood killer? It's been said that player choices just don't matter, but is that truly true? Let's find out. Yo, dudes and dudes, ThisIsKetchu, and today we answer the burning question: can you beat Fallout 4 with only negative dialogue? There I was, waiting for the heat death of the universe, when the doorbell rang. Enter the Yellow Menace, here to ruin my day, but even a salvo of sharp nose couldn't deter him from his crusade. I was locked in a standoff with Mr. Idiot, dodging his pitch like a professional buzzkill, but my husband, always the diplomat, caved like a wet cardboard box. So much for standing united. Guess who's the one wearing the vault suit in this household?
Come back some other time.
Come on, hon. It's just a little paperwork. Let him fill it out, and it's done.
I think you forgot what no means.
Fine. I'll do it myself. Stubborn.
Splendid! Splendid. Let's get to it.
I chose an appropriate name. Nailed it! Character points, stats, whatever. I threw those in like darts at a bar, without aim or thought. I mean, who really remembers what perks you're supposed to pick anyway?
Hey, it's peace of mind. That's worth a little paperwork, right?
For you and Sean, no price is too high.
Good answer.
I have my moments.
My answer sounded like I did all the work, even though I allowed my hubby to do the paperwork. He knows his place. I realize now my first mistake was not naming myself Negative Nancy, but hindsight's 2020 as usual. Nate suggested picnic later. I said no. Sean's plastic factory fresh complexion bothered me. But on the other news, the war started. I didn't even get to finish my coffee yet. We raced to the vault. I faced 2 bombshells that day. Nate's last minute
I love you.
Oh my god!
had all the timing of a spilled coffee.
He wants to bring feelings to this relationship. Now?
High stakes Monday, folks. In the vault, I became a frozen widow with a vendetta. Marriage? Over. Motherhood ripped out of my hands like a TV remote on Super Bowl Sunday. I toured out as human ice pop with one goal: pessimizing the world. Now, about pistols. I wanted to use those this time. Low AP cost, so crit build just makes sense. Only problem? This game practically demands VATS for crits. And as much as I hate letting the game aim for me, turns out I'm about as accurate as a sneeze in a hurricane. After looting my Pip-Boy, I peeked at the perk chart, struggled to retain the information, and then did my best fine-tuning my character points before leaving the vault. Outside and in the real game, ready to bring down the collective mood. My first stop was Sanctuary. God's word, like usual, offered me snacks, which, shockingly, I had to refuse. A painful lie that felt like swallowing a cactus wrapped in a barbed wire. He sulked. I sighed. The bug massacre fell squarely on me. Then I snacked on a book for an eye upgrade. That's right, I'm an emotional eater. After the struggle of swatting down the gunslingers with bullets, I decided to invest in some water, built iron chain fences, until I realized I'm an idiot. When I told Codsworth he was useless, he practically begged me to go get shot in Concord. And just like that, the great destiny train left the station.
Sort of a flea bag, aren't you?
I met Darkmeat. He joined me despite my negativity, thank the heavenly dog. And just like after any good game of whack-a-mole, we roasted and ate the moles. We headed into the Cave of Crashes, without crashing the game. First time for everything. A bit of deconstruction magic and some experience grinding later, we moseyed our way to Concord. The resident raving raiders died because of a bullet overdose, and I put their inside parts inside me. Next up, the Museum of Tutorial, home to the Commonwealth's finest dirt eaters, the sucky paper towel equivalent of threats, gross and useless. Then came the real adversary, the locked museum terminal. I saved the game, positioned myself just so. And a miracle of miracles, cracked it on the first try. Lots of happy first tries this time around. Between this and my flawless mole rat cave adventure, it's like being an insufferable pessimist might be paying off more than I could chew. Once the remaining raiders got their prescription strength lead injections, it was time for the main event. Project Neck Preston.
You owe me.
Nope.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll give you my chest full of emeralds just as soon as we're out of this mess.
I have my own problems, Garvey.
Yeah? Like what?
Despite not showing an ounce of interest in his issues, he trauma dumps on me anyway. And then, bonus round drags his pompadour-wearing sidekick into it as well. I said nothing, and yet here we are, getting the "it's up to you to save the day" spiel. I told the overall idiot it's a ridiculous idea, and he snaps back with a philosophical hot take.
Look, new gal. Don't know what cave you're from, don't care. But you need to shake off the cobwebs and smell the cordite.
Inspiring words from a guy who couldn't hack a novice terminal. After throwing him another no, Preston flips out like a Brahmin in a tornado.
The answer's no. I'm out.
Just like that, huh? You come this far, then condemn these poor people to die? All right. Have it your way. Stay safe. Maybe at least one of us will survive this.
If their plan's so great, why am I doing it? I'm just a bitter widow with a gun, a dog, and a mean streak. Back outside, I threw on the power armor and decided I might as well cash in on all the XP. After scrubbing most of the raiders from the sidewalk, I released the death claw from its den. We had the standard dance of death and claw. I saved a bit before sending the lizard to meet its ancestors, making sure I'd be the one to secure the kill. Dogmeat went and made a mess of himself, but nothing some bats and snacks couldn't fix. After collecting all the corpse stuffings, Preston was thrilled to see me.
You know, you talk like a jerk, but you still helped us out, whether you wanted to or not.
I didn't help you because I like you or anything, baka.
Now they think I'm a tsundere or something. Great. Preston invited me to join them in Sanctuary. It's always fun to tell him no. It lowers his enthusiasm. When Mama Murphy chimed in with her mystical nonsense, I hit her with hard dose of negativity too, but she didn't even flinch. Meanwhile, Preston went off like his spirit animal was a dying balloon.
I just saw you go toe-to-toe with a 20-foot tall irradiated lizard. You telling me you can't keep an open mind after that?
I can live comfortably knowing that Moss is around to keep the mood appropriately sour.
She knows about it? You mean she had one of her visions while she was stoned out of her gourd? And now you want us to just head out on another wild goose chase based on no better plan than Mama Murphy saw it?
From one doom and gloom queen to another.
While upgrading my pistol later, I noticed something wild. It has an accuracy stat that might explain my potato aim. Or maybe I'm just coping. Probably that. Next up, Carla, the Commonwealth's least faced merchant. I tried my best to rattle her cage with some finely tuned threats.
Your money. All of it. Now.
This ain't my first mugging. And I'm just gonna say it. You're not that scary. Why don't you run along?
Dialogue options disabled.
I guess I won't be dealing with raiders anymore.
Dumpling Diner was next on my culinary chaos tour. I ordered up my next dose of complete disorder and confusion with Wolfgang. My ultimatum only managed to escalate the situation into a bullet-filled conclusion. After the main course, dessert with truly flavored trading didn't pan out. Only no was on the menu. Moving on, dog meat sampled some chili-flavored mole rat over at Yusuf Station. There's always a chance that I'd pass by without causing a fuss, but the idiots opened fire first. Their mistake. Inside the place with all the computers and stuff, the raiders got a full-course meal of bullet surprise, delivered fresh and fast. The boss lady? Her name sounded like the aliens' iconic gibberish from Mars Attacks. Next up, the cutthroat world of real estate. Eyeing Tempine's bluff, I tried negotiating a little takeover, which is hard when your entire personality is one big no. But hey, finding loopholes is half the fun in a run like this.
And now the settlement is mine.
With Tempines under new management, I got to work, grabbed most of the chunk, popped up some turrets to protect my precious potatoes, no freebies, and directed more posts and fences to experience myself. While harvesting, I muttered some ironic mantra about assigning people to the crops, fully aware my prospective helpers were lying very dead and slightly more useless on the ground. Oddly satisfying at the time, don't judge me.
I need to assign someone to this.
For my next act, I offered Preston a much-needed dose of realism to counteract his toxic optimism. When he asked for another favor, I hit him with my final, most powerful no. And just like that, the Minutemen were officially booted from Mean Beast 2's master plan. But I'm not an irredeemable villain, so I decided to improve Sanctuary my way. First, I drew up some walls, efficiency and whatnot. Then Jun interrupts. Lost his son to raiders, wants a shoulder to cry on. I offered my most supportive line yet.
You were his dad. It was your job to protect him. And you failed.
Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what happened. I did everything I could, but those damn raiders. I hope they suffer for what they did.
Next up, the new and improved Sanctuary tour. Oh, somebody just went to work. See this maze? with traps and traps in every corner. If the settler's sharp, farming's never been so exciting. I built this impressive guard post, too bad it faces inwards. Then I made this fun little contraption, a laser tag arena inspired random assortment of walls. The sleeping areas, real special. Circular bed formation under the stars. Nature's nightlight also doubles as rainwater collection system. Multitasking. To sleep on your back and with your mouth open. For atmosphere, I installed a state-of-the-art generator setup. They add a soothing hum and that lovely exhaust smell. White noise machine and an incense burner. 2 for 1. My house, completely walled off, fortified, and protected by the settlement's only turret, in case anyone gets creative. I locked down the other house too. Too much roof makes people soft. This builds character. I did add something comfortable for them as well. Check out the VIP lounge. Chairs mostly missing the backrest, a silent radio that does nothing, a bathtub, and a toilet as well. What a deal! You're welcome, Sanctuary.
If you were hoping this becomes a tale of redemption, yeah, you're watching the wrong show. Misery made itself right at home on Apenati Farm the moment I strolled in. I tossed insults like grenades at Blake before he suggested I take my vibes elsewhere, but then my inner magpie flared up, and well, one drinking glass later, the whole farm became collateral damage.
Finish him off, Dogmeat. Nice. Another settlement acquired.
With the Apenatis lovingly evicted, I got to work, grabbed everything down, breathed the Brahmin, turned the farmhouse into a charming family crypt, and locked it down.
Real estate? Real cheap these days.
I fast switched to Trudy to use her as a shortcut. As I hit the diner's turf, Trudy surprised me with something special.
You got me a present?
After ripping open my gift, I swept through Starlight for some R&R, ruining with remodeling, deconstructed everything captured by my eyeballs. Mole rats? Deconstructed. Furniture? Deconstructed. Hopes and dreams? You bet! For good measure, I barricaded every entrance, especially around the big display. Nobody's sneaking popcorn there again. Corvega assembly plant was next, though Lexington's scenic rubble had me a little distracted. Once I hit the factory, I realized the front entrance was a chore. A turret, raiders who had the high ground, plus the long detour just to reach it. No thanks. Then I found a butt pipe leading into the factory. I've only ever used it as an exit. First time using it as an entrance. Normally, I forget it exists until I'm leaving. This time, big brain energy. Inside, I had one mission. Mock every raider to death with slow roasting anemia and lead poisoning.
Wow, this engine is ready to go.
Armed with my rusty trusty pipe pistol, I sandpapered their numbers down slowly, for maximum irritation to the skin. Then, for the final touch, I stacked all their loot in a lovely little pile in the lobby. Let's just say the next guard shift is gonna have some questions. Fueled by my usual insatiable greed, I stormed the super diplomat with one goal: liberate every last scrap of food and have an absolute killer time popping some ghoul skulls. And after 670 something hours clocked in the game, I discovered this revolutionary trick. Post-culinary crusade, I made a deposit of all my edible fortune into my vault.
I'm rich. Just a little more and I can dive into a pool of snacks.
From there, I joined Dance for his little Evening of the Dead special. After the goose were pounded into dust and settled, he grilled me on my business. Naturally, I kept my plans close to my boobs. This didn't sit well with Big Metal Daddy, so he told me to shove off.
Why don't you just get out of here?
I don't get you. Are you playing the hero or the victim?
The scribe gave me a cryptic response that left me more confused than a nun at a rave. And just like that, Brotherhood relations terminated. Side note, if you notice my game glitching out, it's because sometimes Fallout 4 doesn't handle alt-tabbing very well.
Oh boy, waffles! I just gotta check that out.
A quick tap back fixed the weird bug, but it didn't fix my disappointment when Campus Diner has 0 waffles. Next up, the Bridge Trolls. They'd made a cozy little nest on a big boat named after a Dead Island spin-off game. I hate watching dumb animals suffer, so I put the raiders out of their misery. But the power armor boss decided to spice things up with a swan dive off the side. He stayed submerged and kept screaming. Drowning wasn't in the cards for him, I guess. Before hitting Diamond City, I found myself in a mini war between guards and some and greenskins. I tried to mark all of the muties for experience, but somehow the gods decided I was target practice too. The second go at the bridge trolls was rougher. Instead of yeeting himself overboard, the power armor boss stayed on top of things. And I'll be honest, he put up a brutal fight. I didn't stop to help the gods next time around. That's what they get. Rolling into Diamond City, I got my booze on. There's no dealing with Piper sober. She was mid-Karen, absolutely destroying the poor minimum wage gatekeeper, and then threw me under the bus as her witness.
You want into Diamond City, right?
No, not really.
The guard inside had no choice but to accept her drama-fueled story. I hate lying, but when someone else does it for you, chef's kiss.
Better head inside quick before old Danny catches on to the bluff.
Hey, I don't take orders from you.
Whoa, take it easy. Yikes.
Mayor Donut immediately launched into a passive-aggressive argument with Piper. She, of course, dragged me into it again.
Why don't we ask the newcomer? You support the news? Because the mayor's threatened to throw free speech in the dumpster.
Newspapers just like to stir up trouble.
Oh, I didn't mean to bring you into
Then
this.
Mayor Doe gets in my face, offers the weakest welcome ever.
This hasn't been the friendliest welcome.
She's got you there, McDonough.
Now, was there anything particular you came to our city for?
Not really your business.
Nothing really changed, but it was satisfying to deny him my story.
Excuse me.
Danny cornered me to confirm if Piper had duped him about my trader status. I tried lying to him, he didn't buy it, then asked me about my business in Diamond City.
Not really your business.
All right. Sorry I asked.
Inside the walls, I reported to Piper, weak and blunt, no interview, then saved the game and tried to give her a negative one off the record. Naturally, she assumed I was looking for someone. Telling her no wasn't an option. She's just so sure she knows my life better than me. I never claimed to no one I was searching for someone. Her little sister tried to push a newspaper on me. I of course refused, but apparently refusal isn't part of their free press policy, because she forced it into my pocket anyway.
Mind your own business, kiddo.
Fine. Sorry for asking. Jeez.
At the marketplace, I dipped into some family drama. Surprisingly, I resolved it in record time. Turns out, I have a knack for this. Maybe I should be a therapist. Afterward, I spent a moment in silence looking at McDonald's lifeless. Diamond City's got no talent. The imaginary crowd gave him a standing ovation, because there was no crowd to sit. Abbott got a drive-by no. Then I visited Sheng, the water goblin. No work for the no woman. No quests, no fun. Guess I'd have to invent my own entertainment. The defective agency was next. After cleaning them out of loose goods, I delivered a heartfelt
I'm not getting mixed up in this.
to Ellie regarding her problems. She'll manage. Or not. Either way, not my issue.
Look, I gotta pack up. Just go.
At the Dugout Inn, I tossed junk onto the floor for Scarlett's amusement. Beef Jerky Face interrupted my creative process, trying to recruit me mid-mission. I handed Miss Johansson another map for that sad square she's been stuck on since the bombs fell. Didn't forget to drop Vadim a friendly no before seeing myself being unpleasant at another place. On my way out of the dumpster they call the city, the guards decided they'd had enough of my antics and opened fire. Was it the junk floor art? The stolen goods? Who's to say? My permit that says I can do whatever I want didn't work, so I dashed out under the cover of gunfire. Back at home base, in a stroke of genius, I planted some pot in the field.
I'm going to be so rich once it starts growing. Am I doing this right?
On the road to Park Street Station, I stopped by a raider-infested clothing store for a quick XP harvest. I needed to level up my sneak skill, which will totally pay off for all the diabolical schemes I haven't thought of yet. While aimlessly wandering in search of the metro, the Diamond City Guard were still giving me the stink eye. You cause one or two, several little incidents, and suddenly you're a pariah. Then came a feral pupper ambush. A short firefight ended with one of the cars doing a sick flip. Dark Meat, ever the helpful sidekick, attempted to catch it with his back. Didn't work out too well. Before advancing the plot, I decided to make the world a better place by setting Shrek free from his swamp. He'll be sure to help someone set some layers. Park Street Station was crawling with triggermen, but I evicted them with great enthusiasm. I watched in horror while Dark Meat got cut in half. Turns out a lot of the trigger idiots had toys in their inventories, which had me thinking they're just misunderstood children at heart playing mobsters. Didn't slow me down though. I gave Dino a light trigger pull and let Dog Meat land the finishing nibble. He may get in my way half the time, but I still love the furball.
What the freak, this idiot's stuck.
For extra flavor, I chucked Dino's corpse over the railing. A cheap instant welcome mat for his buddies. Nick had the nerve to question why I went out of my way to save his synthetic, barely hanging on hide.
I didn't do it for you or anything. Baka.
Party Crasher showed up next, loudly demanding to know where Dino was. Despite his body being right there, sprawled out like the world's ugliest Christmas decoration. The station itself is always a blast to go through. The triggermen are many, and popping them is so satisfying, like bubble wrap. For the grand finale, I greeted Skinny Malone with,
I know like 5 fat people, and you're 4 of them.
And they took exception to that. Back outside, Nick suggested we meet back in Diamond City. I tried my best no, but he wasn't taking it. Another choice taken right out of my hands. Before daring to face Diamond City again, I figured my sneak skill needed some serious work. Plus, my bad rep could use a little time to cool off, so I wandered the wastes, casually popping shots at anything with or without a pulse. One stop featured a root cellar. It came equipped with its very own bathtub toaster combo. There was also a fellow cave dweller who thought I was trying to enter his bubble, though naturally, I invaded it with lead. Back at Nick's office, Ellie thanked me for returning her boss. I figured a hero's reward was in order, but when I asked, she practically threw carbats at me along with the caps. Thanks for the emotional damage, Ellie. Nick and I dove into the nitty-gritty of my Commonwealth situationship. He revealed he's 80% lockpick, 20% synth, but still 0% helpful when it comes to cracking into the Institute.
Don't lie to me, Nick. You're one of them. They made you.
Yeah, I've heard it all before. You're a freak. You've got something to hide. Blah, blah, blah.
If anything, he could use some more hide.
Then, disaster struck. The all-negative run hits its first roadblock. Bethesda forced me into picking something helpful. I swear, even if this train of negativity derails, I'm dragging it to the last stop anyway. The door to Kellogg's house was locked tight like a superglued butt cheeks. I tried asking the mayor's secretary first, no dice. Then McDonald himself, another fail. I did the logical thing, checked their back rooms for snacks, they were bone dry. Typical cheapskates. Oh, and apparently McDonald is bubble wrapped against bullets. Bethesda's doing their best to foil me at every turn. So I borrowed the key from the front desk and escaped, graciously escorted by bullets. Could I have tried a sneakier approach? Maybe waited until nightfall? Sure, but ain't nobody got time for that. So I parked myself at Trudy's for a 24-hour cooldown. Raiders alarm clocked me. I piled their bodies at Trudy's entrance. A polite, no solicitors notice for any future would-be attackers. Inside Mr. Allbrand's penthouse of mystery, Nick got another dose of my negative charms.
We'll never find him.
Damn it, drop the doom and gloom act. We can work through this.
I had dog meat smell my fingers, and that's all it took to locate Commonwealth's biggest pussy, holed in the old Fort Hagen. Fort Hagen's always a riot, a cozy density of synth dolls to shatter, and for once, I didn't even get lost. Turns out, sneak perks are the real MVP. They protect me from mines, where my situational awareness fails spectacularly. While Kellogg was busy spitting his diss tracks over the intercom, I took a moment to watch Darkmeat recharge his batteries under the disco ball. Some dogs fetch sticks, mine fetches wipes. After reverse engineering all the synths on my way, I also left a few traps for Kellogg, hoping to blow his cybernetic limb straight off the map. Then it was time for the rap battle. Nothing you say here matters. Big shocker.
I'm gonna make you suffer.
The synths triggered my minds, leaving me to face the man himself the old-fashioned way. A bullet spanked to the skull. I chipped him down within an inch of his life, waiting for Darkmeat to land the finishing nibble. Only problem? Kellogg wouldn't stop guzzling stimpaks like they were Nuka-Colas. Then Darkmeat got downed, and when I tried to heal him, the game slapped my hubris out of my hands. On my second attempt, I skipped the talking, and got to observe a live grenade up too close. On my third try, I snorted the entire undersync medley, skipped planning altogether, and just went full frustration blast mode. I turned him into a Fiber Plus with all the lead. After thoroughly searching each and every crevice of Kellogg's body, I stepped outside just in time to look at the big balloon. Nick and Piper were my next unlucky victims. I unleashed Olympic-level negativity.
This is your fault, Nick. You had me running around all over the place, while Kellogg was busy handing Sean over to the Institute.
I'm sorry, friend. Truly.
You're a synth, Valentine. Tell me what you know.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Calm down, Blue.
It's all right. It's all right. The lady's clearly upset. Look, Piper's right. Sad thing is, I have no idea.
Nick was unshakable at first, but when reminiscing of my time with Kellogg, I finally got a reaction out of him.
Doesn't matter what he knew. I'd kill him again in a heartbeat.
Well, sort of. Piper and I tag-teamed Nick by roasting his ridiculous brain drain idea into a smoldering pile of crazy. But he stayed on the rails insistently. Fine, Nick, have it your way. Good neighbor, here I come. After slapping a few green lumps out of my way, I stumbled into the Old North Church and figured it was high time to introduce the railroad to my unique brand of diplomacy. Desdemona didn't quite know what hit her. I unloaded every no in my arsenal, and when I told her I wouldn't die for a glorified vending machine, it was the final blow. She winced. Victory. But Deacon, ever the optimist, he still wanted me in. Said no to him too, but it didn't lock me out. I was forced into a reluctant yes. Turns out, I'd need to buddy up with him for an espionage mission before they'd fully open their doors to their wannabe spy club. Naturally, I ghosted him immediately. I had bigger fish to fry at Charles View Amphitheater. Brother James greeted me with open arms, but I greeted him with relentless refusals. The man just couldn't take a hint, dragged me into his office, spouting nonsense about enlightenment. One final no later, the entire congregation went feral, descending on me like it was my fault they couldn't pick up social cues. The last one tried running away. After cleaning house, I dragged their bodies onto the bed, creating a delightful tableau of a cult in eternal slumber. If anyone stumbled on the scene later, they'd just shrug it off as cult stuff. Then I took a power nap in the pile. Don't judge, I earned it.
Ew.
Stopping by the theater seems to be forming into a tradition. Venturing into Good Neighbor, I aimed a precision-crafted insult at Finn.
Back off, Voldemort.
And bam! His head went pop. The hours spent honing my insult game finally paid off.
Nice.
Inside the memory den, while we caught up with the plot, Darkmeat kept earning his keep. Dr. Amari, meanwhile, got squeamish about desecrating Kellogg's brain. But because I'd been consistently mean to her, she caved in the desperate hope of winning my approval.
Some expert you are. I knew this was a waste of time.
Fine. I'll take a look. But no guarantees. Do you have it with you?
Unfortunately, the game demanded I hit her with not one, but 2 yeses to progress. We're up to 4 betrayals of my all-negative run now.
More problems? Seriously?
It's not like anyone has ever done this before. You try making a secret technology work across hardware generations out of spare parts.
Then I suffered through the memory nonsense, managed to glitch the memory by stepping in and out of the sequence repeatedly, and I was ready to do a backflip off my balcony when I thought it might break entirely. I tried to separate Sean and the boy toy to be the one to get warped instead, but that didn't pan out. Once it was over, Amari stonewalled me again. No amount of snark or nose would change her mind. I had to swim through the glowing sea to find Virgil. An idea was born inside my head. What if I went straight to Virgil before talking to Amari? Surely that would cut down the forced positivity. Off I went, slogging through the radioactive hellscape, only to find Virgil's cave as empty as Kellogg's head after our dance. Fantastic. Trying to locate the Corsair first was pointless too, because I'm 80% sure that thing's bloodlocked. Now I just had to make the choice between talking to Amari again or sludge walking through the seafloor once more. So I reloaded a save.
Hope you got what you were looking for inside my head. I was right. I should have killed you when you were on ice.
There's something wrong with you, Nick. I don't want you with me.
I told you I'm fine. But I get it. Going through Kellogg's brain was a doozy for both of us. I'll be in Diamond City when you've had time to cool off.
And so there I was, bracing myself for another fun walk through the green stain on the map. I'd literally rather cross a sea of rat sauce than touch them neuron noodles again. Back in the depths of Hotspot, I found the asshat who casually erased me in a prior timeline. An Enclave soldier sporting some sort of a plasma cannon. He was clearly looking to ruin somebody's day. I noped out of there pretty quick. Next up was an abandoned shack, with a hatch leading into installation K21B. The Ketchuverse's first visit there. The strangest thing was finding these lockers. This isn't how they're supposed to behave. It's more like this. Downstairs, I punctually disarmed 2 protect drones. They responded by explosively expressing their disdain. Dogmeat didn't even look at the explosion. He's such a legend. Stopping by crater or sewage. I nabbed all the gamma rounds from the stench squad, invented a new pastime, limp roulette, fire at random appendages and see what pops off first. My test subject didn't quite grasp the rules, but he seemed excited to participate anyway. Then I got mauled by stingwings, nearly sent back to the respawn menu. A deathclaw near Virgil's cave was sleeping, just snoozing away. Unacceptable. Instead, I evicted its soul by shooting exclusively at its knees, then switched to my crappiest pistol to crank up the annoyance factor. It, predictably, did not take the situation sitting down.
No sudden moves.
I attempted to throw Virgil, but his dialogue forced a single positive response to keep the convo alive. I did my best to be insufferable anyway. He accused me of working with Kellogg, which, rude, but whatever.
You're gonna end up just as dead if you don't give me what I want.
Don't you lie to me. Why are you even here? What do you want?
Quit your whining. I just need to know how to get inside.
It's not whining if... Wait, what? I can help you get in there. But I want something in return.
Not a chance. I'm not doing anything for you.
Then I'm afraid I can't do anything for you. Good luck finding your way back to... wherever you came from.
Hey, Virgil.
What?
You're gonna help me, or I'm gonna hurt you.
You're off to a great start with that. Do you see the size of these arms? Any idea what I can do to your head with them? I don't think you want to start off things by threatening me. Who the hell are you anyway? How did you find me?
Don't change the subject. I'm the one asking questions here. I want to know about the Institute, and I want to know now.
The Institute? What makes you think I know anything about the Institute?
Strangely, restarting the convo again prompted a slightly different dialogue track, like a discarded B version of Virgil's doubts and judgments.
Listen, you and I both know you were part of the Institute, and you escaped.
How do you know that? No, it doesn't matter. Why are you even here?
Then it was the usual blabber until Virgil told me to hunt a courser.
I don't see why you can't do this.
Back in the Institute is the last place I want to be.
I stole his stupid magazine before leaving. With the agility and luck bubbleheads in my sights, I knew it was time for a detour. First stop, Shrek's swamp, strictly for the principle of poking his nerves. After riling him up, I helped a few raiders to get isekai'd, and got distracted by the combat zone. Inside the trashy theater, the raiders were auditioning to be my problem. I reduced the extras to just the name characters. It was time to bring down the mood for Tommy and Kate.
You caught the end of that bout. What'd you think of Kate's work?
I've seen better.
Ha! Like hell you have.
Tommy thought it would be cool to sell Kate to me like she was a signed collectible, but my eyes were set on bubbleheads, not backup dancers.
Not interested.
Shame.
On the road again, I triggered a super mutie with an explosive personality and a TNT-rich diet. Got spooked by Red Widow Bloodbug. Basically a flying syringe of bad news wrapped in armor like a small tank. A helicopter made out of nightmares. Lesson learned, they're tankier than they look and they hate jokes about their weight. Shortly after, I ran into a scammer determined to lighten my caps. Naturally, I tabled the turns on him.
You're out of your mind.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. But hey, it's your loss. Change your mind, you know where to find me. Retard.
Reloaded his ploy straight into his face and walked away smugly, until Karma sucker punched me with a reload screen. Next timeline, he didn't even get time to wonder why he suddenly had so many bullets for dinner. Somewhere along the way, I got lost. While recalibrating my course, a legendary raider showed up to redefine my concept of bad days. Dogmeat decided it was bring your weirdest friend to work day, and fetched me a Commonwealth murder mascot. I barely had time to pop Medek's Psycho cocktail before I was up to my neck in regret. Skirting by Poseidon Energy to mark it on my map, I attempted to avoid a shootout with the high-leveled locals.
Shut the freak up.
I whispered to Dogmeat as he barked like a siren. Finally, the agility bubblehead nest peeked through the fog. The wreck of the FMS Northern Star. The raiders infesting on the deck, yelling in German or Klingon or something. I can't tell the difference. Locked in a turf war with the Mirelurks charging at them from where I was watching. There was an attempt at stealth, but Patience and I are estranged, so I went loud faster than Piper on a bad day. I found myself once again burdened by all the limbs that the raiders near me had attached to them, so I gave the old roulette a shot combat again. I had to channel my best FPS skills to survive the brutal brawl with the high-level German raiders. Bullets under the skin? Yeah, you don't want that. And the fog didn't help one bit. But their boss, Rags, went down embarrassingly fast. I started the fight with a sneak attack. His high-pitched screaming kicked dog meat chew toy instincts into gear. And I reverse-engineered him with my pokey 10mm. His loot, a suppressed 10mm pistol, equal to my own in power. I was positively dropping with excitement. Silencer was exactly what I've been hoping for. After all that effort, I secured the agility bubblehead. One down, one more to go. There was a settlement between me and my target. Another first base touch for the Ketchuverse. I kept my perception boost in patrolman classes on for the next part, so I could see myself saying no in HD.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Why set up a farm at a place like this? It might not look like much, and there's that smell. But that's the thing. See, this used to be a sewage plant. The most fertile soil in the Commonwealth is right under our feet.
I don't care how fertile the soil is. This place reeks.
Yeah, but you get used to it.
Fair enough.
Besides, keeps the wild animals and the raiders away. We fell on some hard times not long ago. A pack of super mutants hit us and wrecked our entire crop.
So much for that protective smell.
I know it's a lot to ask, but if you put an end to them...
Sorry, I can't help.
Oh, okay. I guess we're on our own then.
Yeah, sorry's too bad.
There was only one way to ease their burdens, but apparently Bethesda decided to bubble wrap their leader in a thick plot armor. I don't know why this lady is essential, but she was sitting between me and my fun. Instead, I was reduced to petty revenge, stealing all their snacks and leaving them with nothing but vibes and questions.
Why do I even bother trying to help people ever?
A sentiment I'll probably forget the next time I see a lootable lunchbox. On my way over to Spectacle Island, I found this cool pipe underwater, got carried away looking for more stuff, and almost drowned. No biggie though, I chugged some water to restore lost health. After finally securing the luck bubblehead, I returned to Sanctuary and recycled mods from stolen guns because I'm too much of a moron to make my own. Next up, Causer Destruction Derby. Never mind, new priority unlocked. With no GPS coordinates for the unidentified freaked object, I wandered aimlessly until a smolder on the horizon whispered. As the saying goes, where there's smoke, there's a need for gunfire. Or it could be more on fire. Dogmeat was zero help. I begged him to sniff out my new toy gun, but apparently, sniff missions are one and done deal. Guess I forgot to renew my Dogmeat Plus subscription. The creepy grounded green alien Kool-Aid, like a trail of disturbing breadcrumbs, led me to a cave where I served the alien, a precision bullet brunch, and claimed my new toy gun.
You're one ugly fadamaka.
I made sure the aftermath looked nice by having the two corpses hold hands, like star-crossed lovers or shipwreck buddies. Later, I laid down some raiders like cheap mattresses. But the ghost of missed gunshots past decided to play its greatest hits on loop. Finally, inside Green Tech Genetics, I silently murdered my way through most of the gunners like I was cleaning a fridge. Except for one legendary genius who tactically positioned himself between two cryo mines, and I had a missile launcher. Next up, the Causer.
I'm here to kill you and take what's inside your head.
That you cannot have.
Dang it, I guess he was right. No, never mind, it's here.
The hostages weren't feeling chatty.
Hi.
Thank you. I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything. Just get out of here.
Wow, I'm not usually this kind.
You're back. The glowing sea. Virgil. What happened?
Long story, and I don't have time. I need the code off this Corsair chip.
Dr. Amari sent me to the railroad to unclog my Corsair chip.
They can't be the only people who can crack a damn code.
Classic Fallout 4, forcing my hand like a dystopian parent. I was shocked to find Desdemona still standing where I left her after my last roast session. Maybe she's into it.
A report here. It reads more like a comic book. Apparently, one hell of a fight took place at Green Tech Genetics.
You people are damn nosy.
Nosy keeps us and you alive. I'm all for one less Corsair in the world, but I need to know why you killed him.
That's my business. I just need the code off this Corsair chip.
You have one of their chips? Intact? Follow me. Now.
Nice. I like my conversation short.
Right. Some ground rules. Tom can get you the code, but once he's done, we get the Corsair chip.
No way. That chip is mine.
After enduring another soul-draining yes, I dropped by Virgil, unleashing verbal diarrhea like a busted faucet.
You managed to get what you need?
I told you I'd get it done, didn't I?
How'd you manage to get it decoded?
None of your damn business.
Fine. Forget I asked. Doesn't matter anyway.
The guy got the hint fast. The sooner he handed me the codes, the sooner I'd be unpleasant elsewhere.
I'm looking for results, not excuses.
Yeah.
Back in the railroad basement, I tried giving Desdemona a hard no. She responded with a hard pass. A reluctant yes. Later, I unlocked a nasty truth. I can't skip the switchboard quest.
You thought you had any agency over this? Lol, no.
Fast traveling to Trudy because of her uncanny ability to serve up something fun. Deacon showcased his acting skills to me.
Stop screwing with me.
This is not for your benefit. We had a pretty sweet setup until the Institute found us.
Yeah, that's great. So what are we doing here?
The survivors didn't have time to grab anything.
The gunners nearby weren't in the mood for improv theater. Next up, briefing from Deacon's contact.
Once your friend gets here, how about we have a chat, huh?
And after patiently waiting for Deacon to arrive in bullet time, it was time for the negativity.
Oh, thank God. You have a Geiger counter? Do you have a goddamn Geiger counter?
No, I don't have a Geiger counter.
Wait, what? Easy there. She meant to say mine is in the shop. Oh, that's better. My heart almost burst out of my chest. Now, goddamn time you headquarters bastards got here.
Ease up there, pal, or we're gonna have a problem.
I already got problems, asshole. The front's fortified to hell and back. They placed mines all over the goddamn place.
Good to know. I'll be going.
Yeah.
My guess is it's worse than he's letting on. So, we're going in through the escape tunnel instead.
I say we go through the front door, minefield or not.
What? If you think we got the mojo for that, I'll back your play. You first.
You first, he said, then started playing 3D Minesweeper anyway.
Hello?
The funny thing is, I knew for a fact that Dogsteak and I won't trigger mines anyway. I used this to my advantage. Inside the switchboard, I had to ruin the vibes by adding another yes to the counter. The mission was pretty easy after fighting against all the monsters for those bubbleheads earlier. At the end of the tunnel, Deacon wanted to hand me the deliverer. I, of course, only had one answering option.
I shouldn't take it.
Too late. It's yours.
Oh, thank Doc.
I grabbed the thingamabob I was supposed to get, my trusty 10mm piece tool was retired, and the deliverer took its place. Next up, back to the railroad, where I'd continue trying to outgrump Desdemona. Deacon was lying his butt off, embellishing our adventure like a drunk bard at a tavern. I exposed his lies, of course. Desdemona invited me to join the railroad, finally. I of course said no. Then I said yes because I have to. And they said I needed to learn their secret handshake and think of a code name.
I don't want a code name.
Code names weren't optional, so Desdemona thought up one for me, Wanderer. Introducing myself to Dr. Carrington earned me a lot of sass.
You guys recruited me. I don't need your attitude.
Charming. I'm sure you and Glory will be fast friends.
He began spewing bull of another operative.
So is there anyone you like?
Oh, I wasn't aware we were competing for congeniality awards. I thought we were rescuing synths. My mistake.
He also offered me a job, which I couldn't refuse, but I could certainly ignore it. I talked to Desdemona and Tom about building the fax machine to the Institute. Made sure Tom had a good time operating the console, and I put the rest of it together. Desdemona told me about an insider in the Institute, Patriot.
It's time you learn about Patriot.
What? You have to speak up.
Just listen for a moment.
And she insisted I made contact with him.
I can't do that. I need to find my son.
I'm confident you can find a way to do both. I leave it to your discretion.
I was to also be their gal on the inside from now on.
I'm no good at lying.
Do your best, and hold out as long as you can. We can't ask for anything more.
Desdemona was surprisingly chill about it all. I guess she knows I'm all they got. After getting emailed to the Institute, I displayed my parenting skills to the boy toy in the cage.
I'll kill them for this. All of them. Damn it. Sean, open the door.
Father, help me!
And it was time to chat with the suspicious old man.
I could kill you. Right here. Right. Now.
Yes.
Blah blah blah, father is actually my son, 60 years had passed. Old Sean took my abusive barrage quite well.
Yeah, you lost me. I don't see the point of any of this.
You don't see the connection. Let me try to explain.
After his long-winded explanations, I got myself evicted by giving him a no. Curious to see what happens next with the railroad, I talked to Desdemona. Turns out, she took it very well. I used to despise her guts, but she kind of warms up to you. The sad news was that I was now to be the Minutemen's responsibility. Freak that. If I was ever going to beat the game with the railroad, it's gotta be the run where I'm as awful of a person as I can. So I talked to Father again, and made my way back to the terminal I forgot to use to communicate with Patriot, and I started to really appreciate the dragging elevators. I placed a mine under Sean's deathbed to see if it would work. Meeting the bigwigs, Ali didn't really appreciate my apathy towards the Institute.
So, now that you're here and you've spoken to Father, does that mean you're on board?
I'm not on board with anything.
No? And yet here you are, poking around. One might find that suspicious. If you're not planning on staying, I'd recommend keeping your hands to yourself. Wouldn't want to give the impression you're up to something.
Layton from ProScience was already used to others belittling his work.
Sounds like a waste of time to me. You should create something more useful.
It's just my opinion, of course. But I don't believe that every discovery needs to be useful. Have you decided whether you'll join us?
I doubt it. I just don't think I'd fit in.
It's a big decision, I know. But it's also a rare and important opportunity. No need to rush to judgment.
He's such a pro. Dr. Lee from Advanced Systems was rude as always.
Well, that's insulting.
I'm sorry. Not my intention. There's just quite a bit going on right now, and your arrival has the potential to throw things off schedule.
After telling her off, she showed her sympathetic side for the first time in the history of Ketchuverse, and for the first time, I related to her. There was also no way to talk my way out of having my Pip-Boy violated. Justin from Synth Retention Bull pretty much just brushed off my threats. He's a head of a science department, but couldn't draw a connection between secret and police. I called his courses useless, and he wasn't too amazed by that. Hailing negativity at Patriot didn't change anything, but at least I didn't have to be agreeable. Next we chatted with a synth perpetrator. The plan was to prepare an escape for 13 synths at the same time. Being in denial got me nowhere, so I had to muster another yes. Reporting back to Desdemona, I called the Institute a paradise, but because they use barely sentient Roombas to keep the place clean, it's slavery, and that's bad.
In Tom's holotape, did you make contact with Patriot?
I didn't bother saying no this time. I wrote my report on Pam's terminal, and got a radiant quest that I'm certainly ignoring.
Yeah. Just tell me what you want.
After some more verbal torture, my orders were clear. Get a password from Cambridge Science Place. The flying paw didn't wanna let me get past the lobby because of some bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo. But my flash pass said otherwise. The place was covered in thick, juicy science all over the place. I tried to hold back and stay on target, but my inner magpie took charge in looting most of everything. Until I got the password and escaped before I got distracted again. Down in depression, Destitute announced she's pretty much ready to destroy organic life as long as it saves the synths. There's something wrong with her, I'm sure. I, out in public, let my synthetic accomplice know that Patriot's plan sucks, and we're going to dial up the plan from 13 to a revolution. I gave G114 a day to try and convince others to join his cause. Another year's ruined my evening, but I had to give Patriot the password.
Sean?
Now that you've had a chance to see the Institute firsthand, what do you think?
If you expect me to be impressed by a lot of fancy sci-fi gizmos, you'd be wrong.
I see. It's not just about the gizmos, as you say. I hope you'll see that in time.
I could have waited, but I decided to get busy and went to Sean for work. Gotta keep appearances and all that. For my next mission, I'd have to capture a rogue synth from Libertalia.
It might not want to talk. It would be safer just to kill it.
That would be a terrible waste of a valuable resource.
I know what he said, but I was going to blow it up anyway. The ghost of who was supposed to be my backup wasn't backing off even if I told it to freak off. I sort of like him, but his only issue is that he's useless. He didn't make sneaking any easier.
Hold up a moment, ma'am. There's something important I need to tell you.
Not now. We're a little busy.
I know, but it'll just take a second and it's something you need to know. I'm going to give you B592's reset code. If he hears the code phrase, it'll reset his cognitive processes and make him docile. You'll need to say B592. Once he's shut down, I can transport him safely back to the Institute.
I'm not going to destroy this man's identity and free will.
Ma'am, I can't force you to use the reset code. but I know it's what Father would want. I hope you'll consider that.
I wanted to do things my way.
There's a lot of blood on your hands. That ends now.
That's the way you want it? Then let's finish this!
Trying to destroy the thing didn't work in the end, like at all. My Corsair backup used the code in my stead, which in retrospect is good news. I don't have to remember it in the future either. After everything was settled, I jumped off the plank in disappointment. Returning to the Institute, I finally sparked a reaction out of Sean.
The Institute created that synth, so the Institute is responsible for what it does.
I disagree. A synth is no more inherently evil than a handgun. When a man dies by gunshot, is the weapon's maker blamed? Of course not. The blame rightly falls on he who pulled the trigger. Yes, we created the synth. But whether they intended to or not, the Railroad's agents turned it into a killer.
He told me to go to my room. That's right, I have a room now. This is something that's really swaying my allegiances right now. I happily sat in my room for 24 hours like a psycho. Then took care of the synth guards in the construction field. Fortunately, we are so deep into Mother Earth, not a single being could hear the scrapped screams.
Ah, hello, Mother. Tell me, what would you do when someone has stolen from you?
I'd teach the guy a lesson. Make sure he never does it again.
Using physical force is never my first choice.
And that's why I think he's not really my son.
You've been in contact with the Railroad, so you're aware of their misguided beliefs?
They're crazy, thinking machines are alive.
It's always fun to trash talk the Railroad between family. I positively told Desperado of Institute's plan in the Bunker Hill. She didn't take no for an answer. Over at the site of happenings, I decided to take part in the fighting. I thought I'd be able to shoot the fusion cores and acquire more power armors, but despite getting shot by both the Institute and the Railroad, I was the most alluring target. I mean, I get it. I was sitting behind a car and not shooting. It was all a grave mistake and a time waster. However, I did manage to clear one power armor in the basement, before taking down everyone in sight once I reached the end of the road. Nobody won that day. This, of course, changes nothing for either side.
Bunker Hill did not go well for us. Would you care to explain what happened?
I made a choice. I let the synths go free.
I let them go free, alright. Too bad I can't tell the truth.
Why? Why would you do something so stupid?
I made the call. I don't have to explain myself to you.
No, you do. You at least owe me an explanation. This was such a simple task. I just don't understand.
Let's not forget our rules here, son. At the end of the day, I'm still your mother.
I am acutely aware of our positions. I am also not a child. And I have a tremendous amount of responsibility for the Institute.
You may actually be completely crazy.
Sean responded kindly by putting me out of the Institute.
I dreamed of you as an adult for so long. Here you are, and I'm so disappointed.
Goodbye, Mother.
One reload and a positive interaction later, Sean was still fuming, but my cover was not blown.
How is my son so white? Is my DNA in there somewhere? Did my husband cheat?
My 60-year-old son followed in my footsteps and ruined everyone's day. First he delighted everyone vying for his part in the room by announcing his impending demise, and then crushed everyone's hopes entirely by naming me as his successor. Bethesda said, "Declining isn't an option." Alice handed me my next quest, and when she offered to join me, I told her no and...
No way. You're not going. You'd be a liability.
Well, that's about the most insulting thing I've heard in a while. Okay, you're on your own then. Good luck. Not to put more pressure on you, but we have to move quickly on this. Word is that the Brotherhood is nosing around the area. We don't want them getting the agitator before we do. Head on up to the relay, and they'll get you over to mass fusion in a flash. Pun sort of intended.
It worked. I don't think she's ever backed down on this. After teleporting to mass fusion, I silently took out the riffraff, forcefully ejected a fusion core from the night like a toaster bomb, took her out and stole her power armor. Stealth Boy saved me a lot of trouble in the elevator. The Brotherhood of Steel soldiers, seeing only dark meat in the elevator, opened fire. It's official, they're anti-dog. We were already mortal enemies, but now they did not yet understand that they got on the nerves of someone willing to go to wildly inconvenient lengths just to make them regret the day they ever decided to try and grill my best buddy. Now it's personal. After laying down a cozy carpet of mines to prepare for the mechanical mayhem, I raided the agitation chamber. A ceiling turret decided to turn immortal until I stepped into its space. The sentry bot took it down with surgical precision, aiming straight for its fusion cores. It was comically easy. Who knew preparation wasn't just for nerds? The Assaultrons couldn't make it into my personal space without their legs to be a problem either. Now that the radiation potato was safely in Ali's hands, Sean handed me the chance to help a prospective recruit change his perspective, possibly. Speed was of utmost importance. The boys will suffer panic attacks if exposed to open spaces above ground for too long. So naturally, I took a few days off on a quest to hoard snacks and stuff. Stay tuned. The chaos near Grey Garden escalated beautifully as I played puppet master between the robot farmers and mercenaries. Lasers crisscrossed the field like a sci-fi disco party, and once the smoke cleared, the Institute droids tried their luck on the farmers too. They got plowed.
Honestly, I'm starting to think that I don't need to do anything. The Institute's failure is practically a self-fulfilling thing that will happen.
Inside the operation zone, I kept blaming everything on the other guy.
It wouldn't have been such a mess if you'd handled it differently.
I never claimed to be suited for field work, and I explicitly stated that when given this assignment. Mercenaries. You believe that?
Far as I can tell, you were only in harm's way because you screwed this up.
Look, I had the same intelligence reports as everyone else. No one saw this coming. Let's just get Wallace and get out of here.
What do you mean, get Wallace? You don't have him already?
I know. There's a slight problem with that. He doesn't want to go with us. I was thinking, maybe you could try and talk to him.
I guess I'll have to, since you're useless.
I think that's a little unfair.
Mr. Wallace, I'm here to talk to you.
You're another one of them, aren't you? Are you a robot?
Useless.
Man, I wish I could lie here.
Shut up and listen to me. We're not here to hurt you, but if you make this difficult, you're gonna regret it.
See? I knew it! You're here to kill me.
Three begrudging positive interactions and an Institute deep strike later, we had Wallace in custody, and I slept on his bed while using him as a plushie.
Snuggly.
At the Institute, Sean showered his mother with enough thick creamy praise to fill a lasagna dish.
Well, maybe it's because I'm the only one who seems to actually be doing anything.
Come now. Countless hours have been spent building and readying the reactor. True, you have endured some of the more dangerous missions.
He wanted me to make a public announcement to the Commonwealth via radio.
You've got to be kidding me.
Absolutely not. You are to be the director of the Institute. You are the only reasonable choice for so important a task.
Naturally, I needed liquid courage, so I downed some beers before flipping the switch.
For years now, you have suspected that the Institute still exists, that we are among you. It's true, but it's not the whole truth. We are here, and we are your new masters. Our superior technology represents the future of the Commonwealth. We have no desire to interfere in the unimportant details of your pathetic existences. We simply insist that you do not interfere with Institute operations. To do so would result in your complete annihilation. Rest easy. Know that the future is out of your control, and that mankind will thrive under our guidance.
Well, that was interesting.
Cracks me up every time.
How would you feel about making a little trip to Diamond City?
There must be someone else you can send for whatever this is.
We don't have any other reliable above-ground operatives.
Despite my single-digit IQ, I somehow repaired the broadcast system. Moments like these make me wish I could hire a Commonwealth Geek Squad to do it instead, because I'd be too stupid to survive drying my own hair on my own. Everyone gathered for the Institute family dinner. We put the lasagna in the oven. For dessert, I secured my spot as the new Fatherina.
Don't patronize me, Doctor. I'm the one in charge here.
Naturally, I called for violence. Post-dinner festivities included dodging an overly chatty NPC who seemed determined to follow me to my grave. G114 informed me the Brotherhood of Steel was going to attack the railroad. I informed Des and suffered another yes to ensure an Institute loss. At the back door, I made quick work of the Brotherhood Knight by shooting his fusion core, causing him to explode spectacularly, taking all his friends along with it. A Synth way past her glory days left me with her last words.
I don't have time for this.
Isn't there supposed to be a light?
I hijacked the power armor, and chain exploded fusion cores on the way back to the surface. Dogmeat worked hard trying to catch the hot potatoes. Then to finish the job, we picked up what remained of the fight and brought it to their doorstep at the police station. Sweeping the area clean, it was a symphony of destruction. Right up until I realized I forgotten to pick up my kids from soccer practice.
Oops.
When I tried to fix my newest borrowed power armor mid-combat, I managed to get it all kinds of messed up. My HUD vanished. Pip-Boy refused to play along, and when I was forced into a reload screen, my game crashed. God, Howard strikes again. A fresh restart gave me a new look. The alien beast tool took the vertibird down faster than it could rain poop on me. And after liquidating the personnel of the Brotherhood of Steel base, we used the stolen bird to take that attitude to the skies. Deacon pitched this big brain plan. I'd sneak in disguised as a Brotherhood soldier and plant explosives. Cute idea, except my Pip-Boy was still having a temper tantrum, so that plan went straight out the vertibird window. Upon landing, I made my intentions crystal clear, and by that, I mean I got into a laser tag fight with their knights while trying to snag a fresh power armor. Turns out, they weren't playing around. Lesson learned. On round 2, I didn't mess around. I fixed my Pip-Boy glitch by putting a power armor inside a power armor, so I can power while I power.
Powerception!
Inside the Britwin, I went on a grand undressing spree of the boss knights. It was awkward, yet effective. That is, until I met Captain Cripple, who refused to step out of her power armor like a hermit crab glued to their cell.
Fine, be that way. Oh wow, this thing's immortal.
I wouldn't give for a gun right now.
Once the fireworks were planted, Elder Maxon and his groupies lit me up like a Christmas tree, nearly roasting my buns. But, as always, fusion core detonation proved the universal key to victory. Maxon exploded gloriously. And I snagged his iconic jacket as my trophy. With the Britwin lighting up the sky into a fiery spectacle like a bag of poop on fire, I returned home victorious.
Now, I don't really like Brotherhood of Steel, the way they hold technology. So selfish. Well, anyway, here's my collection of power armors. Pretty great, huh?
As the founder of KHS Foundation, I set my sights on the upcoming binge. The plungers and walking cane were ready. You can probably imagine why. Reporting to De Perona, I didn't miss the chance to gush about just how much I absolutely love the Big Balloon mission.
Red glare was insane. You almost got us killed.
What option did I have? Run and hide?
After that glowing review, I informed her we were ready to assault the Institute, earning me another soul-glowing yes. Naturally, I called the plan hopeless, and Deacon rewarded me with a side-eye of disapproval.
Everything's ready. It's time.
Good. We'll need to clear this room before I can do more.
I turned the landing room into a makeshift mortuary to meet the requirement for backup and let the real game begin. Running low on patience, I didn't waste any time. I bulldozed turrets and synths in my way with no regard for the Geneva Convention, accidentally shooting most of the scientists in my blood rage, and confronted Father.
Under what righteous pretense have you justified this atrocity?
I just want to watch this place burn.
It's hard to believe I'm related to you.
Funny, I've been saying the same thing.
The only question left then is why you're standing here. Is it regret? Or did you just come to gloat?
I wanted to see you one last time before your whole empire comes crashing down around you.
Get out of here.
Somebody had cleaned up the mine I left under Sean's bed.
I'll see you in hell.
Along with the rest of the Commonwealth. You've seen to that.
His bed turned out to be surprisingly sturdy. Humanity could have survived the apocalypse in these king-sized noose fortresses. Before leaving, I handed my son his lunchbox like a good mother. You might think his decisions were bad, but somebody made him a scientist with my genes.
Yep.
I plowed through the rest of the Institute forces, made sure the named super synths couldn't run away, planted the bomb, ignored the small instrument, I'm sure Railroad will handle it, and didn't beat Fallout 4 with only negative dialogue. I beat it with 22 positive interactions instead. And that's it for this time, folks. Do the engagement things to help me out. Tell me in the comments what I could have done better, or if you have other challenges or games for me to play. Thanks for watching, see you next time, take care now, bye bye then.